is Dominic, wedding DJ.
And this is Serena, wedding planner.
And together we are the
Wedding Duo.
We are here to talk all things weddings.
Planning a wedding can be stressful, but we are here to help.
So before you say, that's it, we're going to Vegas, don't go to Vegas.
Let's have some fun.
Join us as we answer your wedding questions and help navigate planning one of the biggest days of your life with
The Wedding Duo. And we're back.
Hello.
And we're exhausted.
Yeah.
We've been everywhere this past month. We're so excited to be recording yet another episode, but we're also pretty tired and looking forward to a break that's going to come up here soon in December.
It was very weird to, usually if we're going somewhere, we're going together to do a wedding. I do a wedding sometimes without you, which makes me sad, but you don't do too many without me, but you did one recently.
Last weekend.
I flew to Nashville on Wednesday I was speaking to a group of wedding professionals there. And then I flew to San Antonio. And while I was flying there, you were flying to Chicago. I was like, this is weird. It was very weird
crazy
for us to be like heading in different directions.
It was
for
just
cities.
a lot. Like, I was like, are you at the airport? Am I at the airport? Like,
Yeah.
where are we, right?
Plus, you had an assistant flying in as well. So the calendar was like, wait, who's flying to Chicago with it? You're up an early flight.
I
That's
know.
not my flight. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, let me just.
It was a lot. You know, the best way to sum it up was my brother was here to help watching the kids. And he got a glance at my phone and saw the calendar. He said, that gives me so much anxiety. And I was like, yeah, I get it, right? But we made it through and the events were all great. Tell us a little bit about some of the phenomenal bride entrances
Well,
you had.
I had some, it's been like crazy because I had 2 weddings the weekend before, and then we were in Vegas the weekend before that. So it's been like a
Whirlwind.
3-week crazy event. But man, so the first, I was in Texas and the bride came out to her instrumental. No, everyone else came out to an instrumental version of You Are in Love by Taylor Swift. And then we transitioned to hers.
To the actual,
the
lyrics.
actual one,
Yeah.
where Taylor starts singing quietly, and then the bride got to the bottom of the stairs. I told her, pause with your dad. And then, and she just nailed that timing.
Oh my God.
Oh, jeez.
So if you're looking for it, it's on our TikTok and it is.
Chills.
Yeah, it is.
And our Instagram.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And our Facebook.
It's
But,
everywhere.
and then this past weekend, we did Lady Gaga, Is That All Right? And also, that one we put her voice in it because we had an instrumental version playing. Her voice started for the groom. Groom was up there. He couldn't hold it together. He was like, "Ah!" And then we opened the doors as Lady Gaga hit her high note. Man, it was just amazing. That one is like, I mean, the Taylor Swift one is big, but I've used Is That All Right twice now. This was the first time with that. That's such a hard thing.
I know, but I didn't know what you were getting.
It was really good.
Like
It's really good. The
Yeah.
lyrics are really great. And man, it's just really, really good. And then with her voice on top of it, and the instrumental version is really pretty as well. And it really matched it perfectly. Making memories. We're making moments out there.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I love seeing it on video. We've been doing a lot of voiceovers lately. Just so you guys know, the voiceover piece is where you, as bride-to-be, record about 30 seconds of your voice and you say something like,
Sweet.
yes, I'm getting ready to come down the aisle. Can't wait to spend my life with you. And he actually embeds it into the track so that as you're standing there behind the doors, everyone's hearing your voice. And it's a surprise most times to everybody and the groom. It's just incredible, like the impact, right? So just so you guys know, if you're interested in something like that, it's available on our shop. We can do it for you.
And we've done different ones. I did one a while ago where it was the father of the bride stance. And so the bride at different parts in the song, like there was the chorus and then the bride's voice came in. Man, that was a good one too. And then we did one recently with the grandparents. Couldn't make it to the event, but the groom was really close with them. The bride asked them to record a little snippet, and that was really special. So there's no stopping where you can go. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is good. What we're going to talk about today.
Not talking about that. That's our show. People, thanks a lot for no.
Yeah,
we actually have a topic.
We do have another topic. So we're going to talk about like pre-ceremony, like before you begin, where you're going to be at mentally, what you might want to plan for, and what that all is going to look like, right?
Like you wake up before you go down the aisle, like that.
What is that time frame?
Part of your day, which is part of your day. But yeah, it's just different. People don't talk about that as much.
Yeah. And so sometimes, when I'm talking with couple, I like to start with, obviously, where is everybody getting ready? Okay. Because that's a factor. Depending on your venue and the setup of your day, there may be a bridal suite. or you may be at a hotel off site. So that's all going to be part of your plan.
Yeah.
And
This is figured out not when you wake up.
no,
So,
we're talking about
yeah,
in
but
out, right?
but this part of the day is like crucial to getting everything. You need to backwards plan that part of the day, right? 'Cause so you're like in your dress, ready to go when it's time, because it's really easy to lose a half hour in the blink of an eye, right?
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? Like, do you have any drive time to factor in? How many hair and makeup artists do you have? So, what is their timing? You know, like, do they need 4 hours? Do they need 6 hours? That's a big difference. And so, all those pieces kind of go into creating that timeline that is the pre-ceremony.
You know, another thing is too, like what day of the week. We talk about what time of the year, right? Because obviously summer you have more daylight to work with. So your photographer is always going to be like, we got to get all these pictures done before it gets dark, right? Winter is when you run into the daylight things. But if you're getting married on Friday too, traffic is different on Friday than it does on Saturday and Sunday or on a holiday. And we had that come up once. Like we were waiting on somebody. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're stuck in traffic. I'm like, oh, traffic. It was like, right. You know, it's a pretty big city, bad time of day. I'm like, oh, geez. So that's another, I try to stress anybody out. These are just things you need to like have in your,
And you're
the brain.
referencing traffic because they were traveling
Yeah,
from
they were not on
somewhere
site.
to the venue. So that's something to consider. You know, it's nice, I will say, when everything's happening in the same place.
Yes, just
Because
get
you
there.
don't then have those factors. You
Right.
don't have the drive time. You don't have to worry about people being late and showing up, you know, in a hurry. So that's something to just think through, especially if you're really early on and you're searching for venues. Like, can we get ready here? And
Yeah.
what time does that start?
There you go. And so what is the main, fast forward a little bit. Yeah. What are some of the main things that you need to factor in, like as you're backwards planning?
Yeah. So something that comes up all the time and a big question for a lot of couples is, are we going to do like a first look or not? Right. And the reason that comes up is because, and why a lot of couples do opt to do it is they want to get a lot of photos out of the way beforehand.
And it does kind of help with your nerves, right?
I agree. Yeah. Because
So those are the pros.
especially like, I think about you and I, right? Like you're my rock. So I lean on you. And if I can't see you for all this time, like it's
On
going
a
to make
huge
me
day.
even more nervous.
Yeah.
So if I could see you and lean on you for just a moment and get that out of the way, that's
No
going to help
kissing.
me.
You can't kiss. That's like, yeah, but there can be a hug, but you're like, don't I saw here? You know,
Right, right.
But so that's one of the things couples talk about a lot is like, I want to get pictures done. I'm worried about the daylight. And I'm just going to be a ball of stress. And I want to see my significant other so I can kind of decompress before we, start this thing. Right.
Right. But the thing that some people don't take into consideration is something that we just talked about, and it has to do with vendors, is when does your hair and makeup end? Meaning when you can then put your dress on to do the first look.
Yep.
And then when does your photographer get there? And how much time do you have
Like what
before
happens?
guests start arriving, right? You can't, I'm just going to say this, you can't put 30 minutes on there for all these pictures right before a ceremony and expect to be out in front of the chapel because everyone will see you, right? So you have to take that into consideration. I put a 30-minute hard stop on the timeline, bride tucked away, like before the ceremony, right? Like you're not available at that point.
Well, it depends on the venue as well. Cause some places have, maybe there's a balcony that looks really photogenic. And there's a great like backdrop of something pretty behind off the balcony, not just a parking lot or something. I don't know, but like a pretty mountains or trees, whatever. But there could be a really spot like that that's pretty where you can do some of maybe the first look and some of the pictures, if maybe the bridesmaid, parents, whatever else you're trying to capture beforehand.
Right.
That's not down where all the guests are going to be. But most places, that's the pretty spots is where the guests are also going to be. And yeah, once people start showing up, it's hard. People don't listen to the signs. They'll just walk past like, oh, well, no, she's inviting. I'm here. I'm her favorite. I'm like, no. Stay out of the reception. Go over here. But then, and not everybody, but there's always a few, or they just didn't see the sign. People don't always see the signage. And they just walk in and ruin a moment, or they see you beforehand. And you don't want them to see the room or you. You want that to all to be like planned and like we want these reveals. We don't want you to just stumble in. Yeah. But it's hard when the people start showing up, they're going to be in your space.
Yeah. And the other thing that people kind of underestimate is the amount of stress before the ceremony, meaning you have just sat in the hair and makeup chair. You're nervous about that. It's all leading up. And then things start happening, right? You're getting asked questions and people start arriving and stuff's getting dropped off. and then the photographer's there and they want to take all these pictures. Like it's very hectic and overwhelming for a lot of couples. And so
You're stressing me out just talking.
I know, I'm sorry. But what the point I'm trying to get to is if you try to cram in all these pictures, it almost always doesn't work out. I mean, I'm just saying that. Like, I usually am very transparent with my couples, and I say we will try to get as many as we can,
Right.
but some of them will have to happen after the ceremony. It's just impossible, right? You can't track down all the people. Some of the people aren't even there yet. Like, if you try to say, like, "Hey, let's get pictures beforehand with extended family," they're not there.
Grandparents.
Yeah, they're not there yet, and you don't want them to see you beforehand, really, right?
But even if you don't know first look, you can usually do bridesmaids, you can usually do parents.
Yes.
It's just your significant other that you want to wait to see at the altar, or you want him or her to see you when you appear, like as the music hits and all the things we talk about. But there's a middle ground where you can kind of do a little bit of both. What's that called?
So that's like doing what I call a first touch, right?
You call it that? I think everybody calls
Or everyone calls it.
it. She's coined this term. She came up with the idea.
Yeah,
First
no.
touch, I love it. It's so magical.
Yeah, and the reason we recommend it, we've had couples.
Wait, tell them what it is first.
That's what I am doing.
Oh, okay.
We've had couples say, I'm nervous about doing personal vows at the altar. Like, is there any alternative? And the first touch is the alternative because they don't see you in the dress. You're going to be around a corner on either side of a tree. We're going to set it up so that the groom is standing there and then the bride comes and gets a position. You can hold one hand and then you can read your vows to each other. Or you don't have to actually read the vows. You can just say something
like,
sweet.
How you doing, babe? Like, are you ready? How you doing? Like, I'm so nervous. Like, me too. You're just gonna have a moment with your person, right? But the videographer too. Sometimes, if you have a videographer, they'll put a mic on you discreetly, right? So that when you are there reading your vows to each other, but you're not seeing each other, but you're around the corner. Later, you watch it and you'll remember your feeling when you were there. Oh, it's big. The pictures are great too. Like the two of you reach by the tree around the corner. But it's really. Man, it's really pretty. It's really a nice moment.
It is. And it's a happy medium between him not seeing you in the dress and you guys kind of getting a moment alone to get those photos. And it also takes out the reading of the vows in front of everyone if you don't want to do that.
If you're going to do that. Or you can just repeat that for me. That's easier too.
Right. But to the time factor, let's kind of go back to that. Those things take time. They take time to orchestrate. And something that I often talk about with couples is like, where's this stuff happening? Especially if I'm not as familiar with a venue, I'm going to get with the photographer or with the venue person and say, like, where do you traditionally see these photos taking place? Because we want to plan for that, right?
Yep.
You can't just like wander around. You don't have time to do that. You have to set it up, get those photos done, and move on to the next thing.
Well, I've said it before. When you do a walkthrough, you may have a photographer that has never been at your venue. If they have, they're going to already have several spots scoped out, right? But when you go through your walkthrough, ask the person giving the tour, like, where's the free place, right? They'll be like, oh, a lot of people do it here. A lot of people do it here. This time of year, the foliage is really pretty. That's a good spot. When you're here in the winter, it'll just be sticks. Maybe that won't be as pretty. So scout it out, like make a note, maybe keep track of it, text it, or email it to your photographer and say, here's what we're thinking, just so that they have it. Yeah, just so you're just leaning into it a little bit. And you planner, sure. And just so you've already scoped it out, like, oh, that would be, I love the colors here or whatever, because the venue have seen all the pictures, all the things, they've seen the room flip, they've seen all the things, right? So they're a great person to ask these questions to, but it's really nice to be able to just have that in the back of your head. And the time thing, like, you just need to have extra time. You just need to plan for things to take a little longer. Talk about hair and makeup, because what if, like, you have to have a schedule, who's in the chair, how many artists are coming or hair people, like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. And this is kind of like off what we're talking about a little bit, but be kind of a stickler about that timing with the hair and makeup. I mean, I'm not saying to like yell at anyone or anything, but just have the schedule there with you and check it and make sure that the people are getting in one after the other. Ask the hair and makeup artist to be on it, because you don't want to get behind at that point. It'll just throw the whole of it behind. Yeah. Once you do that.
And what about like lunch? Is it hard once you have your makeup on to like eat and is it something you wanted, like, I want to have a big breakfast and then have a light lunch, or how does
So
I don't know. I don't wear makeup very often.
it's hard for a lot of
Ever.
brides to eat like a large meal.
Sure.
Just because I know,
Yeah.
I know from my experience, like I would be able to eat like a big breakfast or anything on a day like that. However, you do want to have food available and maybe just be snacking throughout. And when you talk about like messing up like lipstick or something, is that what you're referencing?
I mean, lipstick,
kinda?
of course, but if you're chowing on a big sub, you're like, you're like, great.
Well,
There's
the makeup artists generally will do touch ups like right before they leave. And they usually leave a little like sample of the lip color and gloss or whatever they've used so that you can do your own touch up maybe after the ceremony.
sure.
So there's ways to kind of get around that, but definitely making sure you eat and have stuff available is one of my like big pressing points when I'm working with couples is if for guys and girls, right? Because somebody has to again plan for that. That you have to figure out are you going to the grocery store and getting trays of sandwiches, like who's picking it up? When can you have it delivered if that's a possibility?
A
So
charcuterie board. I've seen
there's
some
a
fancy
lot.
setups. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some really fancy stuff. And then a lot of times you have mimosas, and this is just a side note, especially with the guys, like go easy during the day. I mean, you don't want to be tripping over, it's already starting feeling tipsy or feeling the effects before you're even in your dress. And it's really easy. People are partying, they're in a party mode, and the guys are just, I've seen it very rarely, but I've seen it where the guys are just like, dude, you're like trash already. We
Yeah.
haven't even, and you get pictures. You don't want to like looking all sloppy in the picture. I mean, it's a whole thing, but just go easy.
Taste yourself.
Go
as you
easy.
say.
Tell the bridesmaids, tell the guys, go easy.
Yep. So now we're going to pause for a brief word from our sponsor.
Oh, that sounds so official. And we have a sponsor. Let's talk about our sponsor for a sec. As we mentioned, we have been going every different direction here recently, and our stress levels and anxiety gets pretty high too. So I continue to use my Truvaga device, which is a handheld device that stimulates my nervous system, helps with my stress, stimulates the vagus nerve in your neck right there. And man, it's great. I travel with it, and it really improves my sleep. It's been really helpful.
Yeah. And I've noticed the difference, as I've mentioned before. Like he just sleeps deeper, maybe snores more. I'm not sure. But it's definitely like improved stress levels for him. And that's always a plus, right? Especially like if you're doing something like wedding planning that you guys are in the midst of. It's something you should check out. So
Stressful.
visit Truvaga.com/wedding duo for $15 off your order. That's TRUVAGA.com/wedding duo to enhance your wellness journey and get $15 off your Truvaga or Truvaga Plus device. That's TRUVAGA.com/wedding duo. Our membership
It's
is
evolving.
evolving, you guys. Okay, so if you don't know about it, which I'm sure if you listen to the podcast, you do, we did a whole episode on it. It is now an in-app form, right? It's something that you can actually go to the App Store and search for the Wedding Duo membership,
It looks
download.
so Look, it looks like this, right? Today, that's our logo. But in the app, amongst my other apps, I'm like, oh, look, we have an app.
It's so fun.
I feel
So
like a grown up.
it's really evolved, like he said. Like we knew it would be kind of a work in progress, but what we do within the membership is we have videos and resources, we have playlists, we have forms, but the best part is we meet every week, and we have had some just amazing meetups where we discuss all things weddings, feelings, and
Yeah, just all the
questions.
things, all the obstacles that people are navigating through.
We do it together. It's really been great, and it's phenomenal. And the next lesson to come out is a big one. It's going to be all the stuff I put together on creating a timeline. So that's going to be huge. It's going to have my timeline example in there if you guys are DIYing and you want something to kind of start that process. So
hello, what about the playlist I just put up?
cake songs.
Cakes.
That's so important.
It's not a major one. Somebody was asking about it, and they were curious, and so I'm like, yeah, put together. I've had a playlist for cake. Some people do it unannounced, some people do, but some people don't even realize that you picked the song. They just think it's another song with you just playing. But you could totally pick a cake song.
Yes.
There you go. And there's a playlist for it.
Now there's a playlist for it. And the other great thing is that the playlists evolve too. As we find new songs, as we do events and we hear music that we think will work, we're going to put it on those playlists and you'll always have access to it. So just so you guys know, it's $27 a month. You can cancel anytime. Obviously, you'll get married at some point. You're not going to want to hang out with anymore. But check it out for sure.
there's when you say the playlist evolved, sometimes I go back and remove an artist. We call that getting R. Kelly'd. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not representing
No,
get
no,
booed.
no, no.
Okay, so let's go back on track.
Okay.
Who else? We talked about usually it's the couple, the newlywed they're not newlyweds yet, but like the couple getting married. Their
Why
first
did
look.
that
Who else?
you up so much?
Who else can do a first look? Who else gets a first look?
Oh, okay. Yes, that's a good point. So dad is the biggest.
Yeah.
So father of the bride, a lot of times first look for father of the bride. And I've also seen if dad's not in the picture or not around anymore, mother of the bride sometimes, but she's oftentimes
Right.
seen the dress already, so it's not as big a deal.
When she's been in the chair next to you getting ready, you've already had a morning.
Yes.
Dad's not in there with the girls running around.
Exactly. So that's why that's more of an impact.
Sure.
The other thing that a lot of brides do is a reveal to their bridesmaids because it's different. Even if the bridesmaids like went with you to like pick out the dress, when you're like,
You're all down.
when you are all done up and the veil is on and the shoes are on and the jewelry is on, it is a different moment and
Yeah.
it hits different for sure.
And it's a great TikTok, but it's also a great moment. It's a great video. It's a great picture.
Mhm.
I've seen brides do it with the groomsmen as well. If you're
Yeah.
really close with your groomsmen, or if you have several brothers,
You're right.
that's also fantastic. I make a joke if I see them doing a first look. I always walk up first, like first look with the DJ, and they're like, "What? Get out of here!" I'll go, "No, is that not a?"
Your own.
But another thing that we did a video on recently was the groom. If it's a man you're marrying, the groom gets all dolled up. It's the best he's ever looked, right? The eyebrows are tamed, the beard is trimmed, the hair is cut. He can do a first look with his mom if he's really close, because mom was probably getting ready. His mom was probably getting ready with the girls.
Or offside or
And
something. Yeah.
He's all dressed up. You can do the exact same thing where mom turns around, taps on the shoulder. There he is. He's not in his Crocs and his khaki shorts and that stupid shirt with the hole in the pit. Like he's all dressed up. He's looked his best. Like it's a moment too for mom to see her little baby boy all grown up.
Yeah. We did a video on that recently and it's gotten a lot of traction and a lot of just ridiculousness on there.
Always.
I
It's
mean,
always ridiculous.
people are like, oh, it's not about him. Like, I've seen him in a suit before. Who cares? Okay, let me just explain something to you. When we make suggestions or we talk about this, it is not going to apply to everybody. We know that. Take it for what it's worth. If you like the idea, use it. If you
People
don't,
sure like to share.
don't.
I think this is a terrible idea. Thanks. Aaron. Thank you.
They will like DM me or us and
It's
tell us how
ridiculous.
bad of an
It's
idea it
ridiculous.
is. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that. This person obviously thinks it's a good idea. So
There you go.
move on.
And all we do with all of our stuff is ideally, this is the first and only time you'll ever do this, right?
Right.
As a couple. But there's so many different options, so many different ways you can do it. And somebody's like, I didn't even know that was even a thing. Like, that's a thing. That's a great idea. Or like, I didn't know that's a thing. I'm still not doing it. Like, great. Yeah. But now you know it's a thing not to do it. So when somebody brings it up, you're like, what is that? You're like, oh, I heard about that. Because the way to go on their podcast, share these great ideas.
Yeah. And that's what I always say suggestions. Like that's what we're doing. We're suggesting things. So that you have in your arsenal all the options and make the best decision for you.
Another thing that happens before the ceremony, like before you actually go down the aisle, is there's several vendors that are going to be showing up. So if you're DIYing a lot of this, or if you have your Aunt Julie, who's your planner, but she's only done, one corporate event, or she does her fundraising once a year for the Cub Scouts or whatever, there are other people that are going to need access that you need to just be able, if you think like, oh, we have access at 4:00, we don't start the ceremony until 5:30. That's enough time. Like, but
Not enough time.
are there rentals
that
coming?
makes me anxious.
Is your florist going to get in there? And then the caterer is going to be in there setting the tables and putting glasses and filling water. All these things happen before, because that's another thing that's really time consuming. And there's some order of events there too, right? The florist can't be putting stuff down. The caterer can't be putting stuff down until the linens are there. And the linens can't go down until the chair and tables are set. Like all
Yeah.
these things. Some
But if you-
venues do it the night before the tables, right? That happens a lot.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah. And if you have professionals, so they definitely know how this works. And so I don't,
yes.
you saying all that, I think creates anxiety for a lot of people. But if you hire professionals, they will know when arrival is appropriate. They will check with the other vendors. They will make sure that all happens.
Yeah,
As you mentioned,
As I said, DIY.
If
If
you're
you're DIYing it and you got a great deal on the space
right,
and everything's coming in, there needs to be some timing on that as well.
exactly. And
Can't
that's
be the bride. The bride is usually not the person to do it. You got to be upstairs getting ready. So
right. And that's where we always talk about like, we understand that a full-scale wedding planner is not in the budget for everyone, nor does every couple want one, right? So, but there has to be somebody. There has to be somebody at the helm knowing the plan and executing it. And that starts early on. Pre-ceremony, how does the day begin? Who's coming when are we setting up? All those things.
You know, another person that shows up that has sometimes asked me as I'm setting up my stuff, because I'm there, a couple hours before the ceremony, of course, usually
Right.
at the latest. The cake lady will walk in like, "Where's the cake table?" I'm like, "Oh, that's a good question. I am not sure which one of these." I mean, because there's sometimes our table set up that might be it, but there's a memorial table, there's a signing table, there's a gift table, there's a cake table. If it's a venue I've been at a lot, I'll probably there. Usually the cake's up there, but I don't want to assume like that could things change. I bet the cake in the same venue in different places, right? So uh, that's something else that needs to be.
Yeah. And if you
It needs to just somebody has to know what table is the cake table. That's my
right. And if you have a planner or a coordinator, usually
absolutely.
I will send out a floor plan beforehand. So the cake person will see on the floor plan where she's going, she or he is
Yes. So don't get stressed if you have professionals. This is for your DIY people that are just like, we're doing it in Papa's back 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of moving parts. And that's why if you're on the fence, hire professionals. It's like really,
Yeah.
it's because all this will be thought out because all the things you're like, there's things you know, the things you don't know, then there's the things you don't know. And that's where in whatever you're doing, right? We're talking weddings. So
Yep.
Okay.
And that is also where our membership comes into play. I know I already mentioned it, but we are here for y'all. And we have been working with the brides that are on there, for a couple of weeks now. Some of them have already gotten married, which is crazy. And they come back and they thank us because it's helpful to have like a
We did.
community of people and then us at the helm kind of directing the ship.
It was just such a different perspective for somebody who literally, she was on, it was like a Tuesday and she jumped on, she said, "I got my diploma."
No, she said, I graduated.
I graduated. And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And she goes, "I got married this week." And we're like, "Oh, you graduated the wedding 101 or whatever.
Got a degree.
You got your wedding degree." But it was such a weird perspective to have her talking about how planned or what took longer, what went faster, what she remembered, how fast, all the things that the bride we tell people. But all the other brides that were there, like, "What's it like on the other side?" They're like,
Yeah.
"You'll get there. Don't worry. You'll get there too."
It's just a great group. And we would love to have those of you that are interested. So if you have questions, please reach out to us. Our email is hello@theweddingduo.co, or you can DM us on Instagram, TikTok, however you want to reach out.
And there you go.
And there you go. That's today's episode, you guys.
There you go. Join us again tomorrow when we talk again.
We're not talking tomorrow.
Next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
You want to send us off in style?
Sure.
Okay.
Like we said earlier, when the people that are, I would never do that. Like, great, it's not your day. Because the Bad Brothers a day that's all about you. It's your wedding day. So don't let somebody talk you into something you don't want to do or talk you out of something you have your heart set on.
You do you.
You'll do it my way. That's new. I'm running some Frank Sinatra there. Great.
And we'll seal it with a kiss.
And goodbye. Next time.
Hey, so thanks for listening to our podcast. If you found any of this information helpful and you know someone who may be engaged or is a maid of honor, maybe you could tell them and share it with a friend.
Absolutely. So screenshot this episode, share it on Instagram, on Facebook, and tag The Wedding Duo. We promise to share the love back. Also, if you are interested in more resources or the show notes, you can go to theweddingduo.co. We have one-on-one virtual sessions, a shop, all sorts of fun stuff. Check it out.